Since we are two guys playing Zelda, we normally do our ranking videos together, but since the top 10 Zelda dungeons is one of our most important rankings, we decided we would each put together our own and then do a combined ranking.
Remember, this is strictly Red's opinion. There's really no right or wrong, and we have a lot of fun debating these rankings.
I didn't have any specific criteria for deciding my favorite dungeons. Instead, I just tried to think about which dungeons are the most memorable and fun to play.
Things like the dungeon item, boss, and theme will factor into this ranking.
These are my top 10 Zelda dungeons. Thieves Town from A Link to the Past taught me from a very young age, you don't trust a woman asking you for help in a Zelda game. It's just not going to work out for you.
And that's a very important lesson to learn early on in life.
I love the first couple rooms of this dungeon. They were huge and they could be very confusing if you didn't know where you were going.
I just love the light shine down through the windows right here.
Yes.
Just for the SNES days, that was a very cool visual.
Not just there, but also like some of the windows we see the light creeping in looked great. Now, I didn't mind escorting this girl around too much. Like, she stayed out of the way. We didn't have to carry her like Rudo.
Yes.
I was okay with that.
God, Rudo's horrible, but I like all the treadmills in the different rooms. It's kind of a nice little challenge that, like, brought to the dungeon.
Especially when they lead you right into enemies and spike
traps.
Speaking of traps, though, when this girl gets in the light and turns out to be the boss, was such a shocker.
I did not see that coming at all, but it's actually a very tough but fun fight.
It was. Like, once you get all three of these disembodied heads floating around shooting fireballs and lasers at you, it really was quite a challenge.
Unless you're using that magic spell.
I'm so used to the iron boots being used for like water temples for sinking to the bottom that I was really glad when this dungeon used them for something different, like used them for magnets instead.
It's just a really cool concept I did not see coming. And then how about this theme right here? Just so fitting for like an industrial mine area.
And just a random one of my favorite Twilight Princess moments is jumping off that ledge, putting on your boots, and getting sucked up against the wall.
One of my favorites was this sumo fight right here, actually, and like throwing this guy off the edge.
I thought that was just a really fun, different fight. And it also was a throwback to the sumo fight right before we got in the dungeon.
Yes, this outside area, I just absolutely love this area.
Yes.
This is where it truly feels like a mine.
And then how about hanging upside down from this magnet to shoot the rope? I thought it was a really neat concept.
And we hung upside down a lot, and I really liked that.
Now the Virus fight I thought was a lot of fun. He was huge, he was flaming, and like grabbing the chain to trip him was an awesome concept.
Just a very intimidating boss.
Especially when he fires up that fire again when he gets back up. It's a great visual. One of my all-time favorite like Zelda cinematics is actually before we even get in this dungeon, but watching the Tower of the Gods come up out of the water.
I like this dungeon because it's a water dungeon, but it's not really a water dungeon, but we get to bring our boat inside.
And I thought that was really cool. It's like sailing through the first couple rooms and then also using the cannon to blast these walls out of the way. I thought was a lot of fun.
And then once again, the theme. Like, it goes very well to dungeon. You kind of have those gods chanting in there. I just love it.
Yeah, the theme combined with like that rainbow platform in a couple places really makes it feel like, the gods have an influence on this place.
And I like how this place is a challenge. Like, it's not like it's a dungeon, but like you're going through this to prove your worth for the Master Sword.
And then how about the view when you're here on the outside? Just getting to look at the sea, I thought was a great visual.
And then all the neon colors, we have golden right here. Just a very futuristic looking boss.
A nice throwback to Bongo Bongo as well with shooting the two hands, but I love how you have to shoot his eyes as well and then bomb his mouth to finish him off. We've mentioned themes a few times already in this ranking, but the Stone Tower Temple theme is, I think it's both of our all-time favorite dungeon theme from any Zelda game.
I just like being able to use all three transformation masks in this dungeon. It just really broke it up very well.
And how about the use of light as well? It's like we use the mirror shield to reflect light, and we also get the light arrows, which we'll use throughout the dungeon.
And then going along with that, I like that we got more than one item. And then also we get more than one mini boss.
But man, using the light arrows to flip this temple upside down, one, it's awesome seeing the sky below us, but it also makes it feel like almost two separate dungeons.
Like, seeing the sky below us is one of my favorite images in like any Zelda game. Like, right here, it's just amazing.
It is. And then both of the mini bosses I thought were a lot of fun. Garo Master is appropriate, and this guy just looks creepy and scary.
But he fits with the dungeon,
he does.
Now,
I'm not a huge fan of the Giant's Mask, but it does look pretty great when we get down here and just us stomping around in this area. It was a tough fight, but I liked using the Giant's Mask for it. I just love how this place has such a look of being an overgrown, abandoned temple out in the middle of the woods. They did a great job of making it look like that.
It was just a very grown-up dungeon, and that was great for being the first adult dungeon in the game.
And then, how about this creepy theme? It sounds very spooky, and I love it. And you combine that with so many undead enemies like the Pose, the Stalfos. It makes the place feel haunted.
It's one of my favorite themes in any Zelda game. But Jen, like, we also had some nice outside areas.
We did.
Like, you know, like a courtyard. Like, it seems like this place used to be something.
It did. And how about those twisted corridors, though?
Love the concept.
When you, like, twist them or straighten them back out, it, like, rotates the rooms at the end of them. I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, now this room right here, you know, it took a little while to do, but it's still kind of a cool puzzle.
Not sure about the colors really not matching the rest of the dungeon. But
Yeah, that's true.
Phantom Ganon, though, I love the visual of him, like, running down the trail out of the paintings.
That was very cool. Then also hitting the light orbs back at him, just like a good appetizer to the Gandorf we face later on.
Now this dungeon feels like one of the most peaceful dungeons in the entire Zelda franchise, at least the upper half.
The upper half. I was going to say the whole thing is not peaceful.
But just like this bright, beautiful, golden upper level combined with like a really calm theme just makes the whole dungeon feel just very peaceful.
And once again, like Tower of the Gods, it's kind of a water dungeon, but it's not a water dungeon, and that water like helped it make it look so beautiful.
It does, and I like the many different ways they use the whip throughout this dungeon.
Agreed.
You see it's like swinging across chasms.
Well, I like to use it another way, but go ahead.
But then the contrast, though.
Yes.
When you get to the lower half of the dungeon, and it's just so dark. It almost has like a heaven versus hell feeling to it.
And then how about the rope right here with the Bogo Blades? And you know, that was very like nerve-wracking climbing up that rope right there.
And then Galactos is one of our all-time favorite Zelda bosses. Just those giant swords are awesome.
And like taking his legs out to hit him like in his heart area. Just a very fun boss fight.
Turtle Rock really has a different look and feel to it than any other dungeon in Link to the Past, and I think a big part of that is like these rock walls that really make it feel like we're in a cave in Death Mountain.
For me, it's the build-up. Like the whole game, I was wanting to get to that top right section of Death Mountain because I knew something was up there, and then we finally got here.
And I love the idea of using the cane to ride these platforms over just like bottomless pits until you get to that lava room.
And that room's very fun. Like just the maze it creates right there would make the dungeon kind of difficult.
I mean, a lot of those rooms where you're riding the platforms are
like this one right here, like
especially in the dark.
This place was confusing. Yes, and it's also in the dark.
I love this bridge when you've got the laser eyes shooting at you from both sides, but then the approach to the boss.
That just looks awesome right there with the 6 torches coming up. It's a great build up.
And then Trinex, I actually did not expect to get like fire and ice together in the boss for Turtle Rock, but they did a really good job with it.
Now the snake part, it looks cool. I don't really like snakes too much, but I really did like fighting him right there and just dodging like him, like all his fast movements.
Anytime you put my all-time favorite item and boss together in the same dungeon, it's gonna end up really high on my ranking.
I agree with you too. My favorite boss and my favorite item in the whole series.
And I love just the entire backstory for this dungeon.
Agreed.
It's like a prison for all of abandoned now for all of Hyrule's like worst criminals.
And that made the pose and also the Stalfos make sense in this dungeon.
And I loved fighting Death Sword. I thought it was such a fun, scary looking mini boss. It's kind of like the warden maybe of the prison.
Agree with you. And here, right here, our favorite item, Spinner. This was just so much fun riding around these rails and jumping from rail to rail.
Especially trying to dodge like the blade traps and everything, and then making the final approach to the boss come up out of the ground felt epic.
And then Stalfos right here, being able to take his spine out and drop him down was just really fun, but this part right here is my favorite.
It is my favorite stretch of almost any Zelda game, just riding that huge tower up and down, hitting him, dropping down, and finishing him off. It was just such a fun fight. I have to be honest, a big part of the appeal of Sandship is the entire Lanayru Sandsea area leading up to it. It's one of my all-time favorite Zelda areas.
It is my favorite Zelda area in the franchise, but just, it was so cool having a ship as a dungeon.
It was, and come on, who doesn't want to explore a pirate ship?
Definitely. And then the mini-boss right here, fighting on the bow with the whole view behind you.
And I like the backstory that mini-boss actually like stole this ship from the skipper and imprisoned his crew.
I don't like him now, but then they also brought back the time shift stuff stones.
Yes, and how beautiful does this ship look once it's like sent back to the past, and the ocean around it also all lights up.
And then being on the mast right there a little while back and be able to see that view again.
Like ziplining from mast to mast, I thought was just so much fun. But man, I love the build up to the boss. Like you're dodging these barrels, these tentacles.
Kegs. Yeah, dodging kegs.
And the tentacles are trying to sink the ship, but Tantalus himself was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, but it's so cool finding him outside though, like in a storm and like everything taking place around the boss.
I don't even know where to start with this. How about first of all, how it looks like...
Well, you better start somewhere because it's your #1 dungeon.
I just love the ancient, like, Egyptian ruin look to this place, and the theme that goes along with it fits it perfectly.
It was a new area in the game that happened very late in the game. I just love that whole feel around this area and the outside area.
And then being able to explore it, half of it is Kid Link, half of it is Adult Link, with one big area in the middle where you can explore us both with this giant statue. It looks awesome.
You know what? The mirror shield and also the light throughout the dungeon, like for some reason it felt like it really went well with this dungeon.
It does, especially using it to like burn through the face of that snake to get us to the final boss area. And how about Twin Rova? One of my all-time favorite bosses, just reflecting the fire and ice back at her was a great feeling.
You know, I was really expecting them to use like a light concept right
there. Me too.
They didn't. Like you said, they used fire and ice. I really liked the switch up.
And then the combined form, charging up your shield to blaster, and then finishing off with your sword. What a great dungeon.
If you click on the red subscribe button, you'll be sent to our YouTube channel, where you'll see that we upload videos frequently. And while you're there, you can subscribe to our channel.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram with the following names. We also have a Facebook page you can check out, so be sure to give us a follow or a like.
If you click the video on the left, you'll be sent to Hick's Top 10 Zelda Dungeons. Clicking the video on the right will send you to our Top 10 Zelda Bosses.
Also, clicking on either video will send you to a playlist where you can find all our ranking videos.